Have you ever wondered, what does a startup online business budget look like? Maybe you're starting your business and you're using your own money. You don't want to use loans or anything like that. And you want to know, what are the costs going to look like? How does it break down? What's the pattern? So that you can budget and prepare for what the cost might be. If that's the case, then this will be a great video training for you, because we'll be talking about what the normal cost might be. And I did a previous video about a similar topic on YouTube, but in this one we'll actually be using budgeting software and playing around with the numbers so you can see what it'll actually look like. I know that it's one thing to talk about a theory of what the business budget may look like and what the expenses may range from, but it's completely different to actually sit down and play with the numbers. So in this video, we'll be actually playing with the numbers so you can see what it looks like. And you'll also hear some of my own recommendations along the way. So if that sounds exciting to you, then this is a perfect video for you. So before we get started, I want to say that my name is Tiffany Domina, and my website is howtoentrepreneur.org. And the mission there is to help you start a business from idea and grow it as large as you want to, even into an enterprise. So if you haven't stopped by howtoentrepreneur.org, I have lots of free resources there for you to help you grow your business from idea to full-time income and from full-time income to enterprise. And I'd love if you stop by and take a look at them. So let's jump right into this video training. So like I said, this is what does a startup business budget look like for an online business. So now if you've come to this video, it's likely you may have asked, how much do you need to start an online business? And it can be really, really confusing to navigate and to figure it out, because there's lots of different ways to start. There's e-commerce, there's affiliate marketing, there's selling your own services, there's selling products, there's drop shipping. There's so many different ways to get started into an online business, and there's different people who give you advice about it, and they're using different tools, and it can be confusing to figure out who's the right one to listen to versus who's the wrong one to listen to. And there's advertising platforms and various things that you can use to grow your business, and it can be really, really confusing to figure out what to do. And then there's also, like I said, different business models. So there's lead gen, starting a marketing agency, rank and rent SEO, lots of different things that I've even talked about, software as a service. There's so many different ways to get into starting an online business. So actually narrowing down the cost can be very confusing, and it can also range quite a bit. And then when you add on top of that, there's not a lot of local companies who can consult you about what it takes, because it's still fairly new, and it may be hard to find people who are actually making money online so that they can translate what the expenses would be. So that's why I'm doing this video, so that you can see what it would be like, and you don't have to bump your head and troubleshoot it on your own. So in this video, like I said, we'll be playing with some numbers. I want to talk about a few things before we get into that, but we will be playing with some numbers so you can see kind of what it would be like, specifically $1,000 startup budget. So, and I'll mess around with more than just $1,000 startup budget in case you want to invest more into your business, or however you want to do it, but we'll be playing around with some numbers. So let's get into this. As a disclaimer, I'm not an accountant. I'm an online business owner, and I'm sharing this because I remember what it was like to start my online business and to be confused about, should I buy this course or should I not buy this course? Should I buy this software? Do I need it or not? I remember having all of those questions and not really certain about what I need versus what is an extra or a luxury item. And it can really make the budget go all over the place when you don't know. And it's hard to forecast to your spouse or to whoever may be helping you or supporting you when you are all over the place and you're experimenting. Then it makes them lose confidence even more in what you're doing, and it can have a spiral domino effect. So When you have more certainty and more clarity about what you're doing, then you can pass that clarity on and that confidence on to other people, and it makes you feel like you're doing a real business. And I know when you understand the numbers behind it much better, then you can feel that sense of confidence and clarity, and it just translates into everything else. When you're confident and you're clear about what you need to do, then when you tell your friends or your family what you're doing, you don't feel like it's a gamble or a scam, or you don't feel as insecure, and then it can light a fire to get them more supportive of you, and on and on and on. So that's why I'm sharing this with you. Now, first I want to talk about where does the money usually come from. And this doesn't only apply to online business, this applies to offline business as well. A lot of times, whether you're starting a bakery or a grocery store or a construction company or whatever it may be, the money for that usually comes from the founder's job. They might have a job working somewhere, and then they take some of that money to invest in the tools, the education, and everything else they need to start their businesses. It can also come from the founder's family. You might have a spouse that's working, and maybe you're a stay-home mom or a stay-home dad, and your spouse's job or spouse's income is helping you to start your business. You might have parents that are helping you to start your business. You might have friends that really love and support you, and so they believe in what you're doing and they decide to invest in your business. You might have a combination of all of it, a working spouse, parents, friends. You could have a really strong support system and all of them decide to put money in, including your own job maybe. So it could be a variety of ways that you can get the money for starting your business. You could also do fundraisers. I've seen people do things like car washes, or like putting tables out, getting donations. I've seen a variety of things that people do to do fundraisers. Also, you can do startup business competitions. Sometimes they have business plan competitions. I know in my local area they have business plan competitions. They have business incubators that will look over your business plan, and they'll see whose business plan looks the best, and the startup business budget is going to be a really key part of that business plan. So this video might be even more beneficial for you than you've thought about before, because having that startup business budget, you could actually get into a competition or something like that and talk to people more confidently about what you plan to do. Then you have grants. Grants are another option. Sometimes companies, larger companies, or even the government may put grants for certain type of businesses. So let's say, for example, maybe you have a website and it's about supporting orphans, or it might have some type of charitable cause, and you might be able to get grants to help support that startup. And then you have credit cards and debt, which is my least recommended method for starting the business. But sometimes, depending on your situation, it might be the option for you. I would say to stay away from it at all costs. But if you can handle the payoff of debt and loans, then this might be an option for you. Some people start off with credit cards and debt. So now, according to Wikipedia, the January 2019 median income in the U.S. is $63,688, and I've included that because I also have where we'll be playing around with a personal budget, so you can see how from the median income money can come out and go into your online business investment. So alternatively, you may have a large percentage of your income that's already going to expenses or debt, and that can make it difficult for you to invest in your business starting out, but it still can be done. Now, what if you're in financial hardship? I've seen this several times where people are starting businesses, whether online or offline, and they're already in a financial hardship. It's very common. Stats show most people are living paycheck to paycheck, and a lot of times when you start a business, you're starting it as an option for increasing your income. So it's just that when you start in financial hardship, it becomes a lot more important to budget for personal and business so that you can understand your spending patterns and so that you can spend according to your goals and cut back on impulsive spending. This is really, really important. You have to be more disciplined when you're in financial hardship. You can't just be experimental and spending on a variety of things trying to see what would work in your online business as much as someone who has more room to make errors and mistakes, and maybe they have thousands of dollars saved up so it won't take away from their water bill or their food budget or anything like that for them to experiment with courses and software and a variety of things. So if you are in financial hardship, you definitely want to be more disciplined. You want to sacrifice and cut back on expenses as much as possible, not to the point where you're living a miserable and unsatisfying life, but just enough that you can have room to invest in your business if that's the direction you want to go. And you also have to choose products and services that get the job done. You may not start out with the most luxury products and services, but you want to start out with the products and services that will help you to get the job done and scale up as you have more room to do so. And you also really, really want to find good advisors, people who aren't trying to get over on you or constantly trying to upsell you to something. You want to find people who genuinely have a heart of service and want to help you, and find people like that because they'll help you and they'll direct you towards what you actually need instead of just trying to make a sale off of you. So this is all very important if you're in financial hardship. Now, business revenue doesn't speed up because you're in financial hardship, and this is something to keep in mind because I have a lot of people who come and they're in financial hardship, so they want to make the money tomorrow or the next day or the next month. And you might be very desperate and pay more attention than someone who isn't in a hardship, but you will still need to develop skills. And if you're starting an online business, some of the skills you might need to develop include the skills to build a website. You have to know how to build a website, because if you're in financial hardship, you may not be able to afford to pay somebody to build it for you. You may not be able to pay somebody to design the website for you. So some of the skills you may have to learn. Also, how to create a brand. Creating a brand and a positive perception with buyers is going to help your business to grow. And so you have to learn how to create a trustworthy brand so that people are attracted to you and they actually want to do business with you. If you're just desperate to make the money, sometimes it can come off very selfish, and then it won't materialize like you want. You also want to develop skills like how to attract customers, whether you decide to start out using search engine optimization or paid ads or anything like that. There's skill levels with it. And when you're starting out, you don't have the skills. You don't necessarily know how to do search engine optimization. And maybe you might have watched several videos about it, but it's one thing to watch the videos about it and it's another thing to learn it. And the same thing with paid advertising or with social media marketing and all of those things. It's similar to riding a bike. You get better and better and better at it, but when you start out, you don't have the skills. And you can watch somebody ride a bike on YouTube, but it's different when you actually sit on the bike and try to balance it yourself. And that's how it is for learning the skills it takes to build an online business. How to pick affiliate partners, how to create products, how to sell services, how to drop ship. All of these are other things you would have to learn in order to monetize the business well. And then there's the other side. After you've picked affiliate partners, maybe they have peak seasons and low seasons, and you have to learn how to adjust your monetization strategy so that it provides for you in a stable way all year around. You have to learn how to make content that sells, or copywriting, or even video presentation, or all of those things are skills that you have to learn to run an online business. When you're offline, you can knock on the door, the person opens the door, and it's kind of like just interpersonal skills. With online, you're learning those interpersonal skills as well as the technology that comes along with it. So all of these are important things that you need to learn, and just because you're in a financial hardship doesn't necessarily mean that you'll learn these things any faster, or that your learning curve won't take more than a month. And for most people, it takes them a while to learn the skills it takes to run an online business. Online business, I would say, is very similar to any other career field. If you get into nursing, or if you get into engineering, or if you get into human resources, or whatever the career field you decide to go into, it usually takes some time to learn the skills it takes. And that's why we have universities. And so you want to give yourself that time to develop the skills so that you can actually operate the business well. So now, can an online business get you out of a hardship? Absolutely. Oftentimes, a financial hardship comes as a result of having insufficient income. So there's multiple ways to solve the problem of having insufficient income, and some of those options are getting a job. If you already have a job, you might want to get a second or a third or a fourth job. Sometimes these are ways that people get extra income. They also may start a side hustle, whether they're cutting grass after they get off of their job, or whether they are doing hair on the side, or whatever the case is. Some people decide to get a side hustle, and starting an online business can even start as a side hustle. So starting an online business is an alternative to getting a job, getting a second job, or starting a side hustle of another type. Either way, when you start a side hustle or when you start an online business, it does take some time to get traction. And so online business definitely takes more risk than a traditional job, but if it looks like an option to make income that you would enjoy, then definitely go for it. Now, there are differences between getting a job versus starting a business, and these are some things I think you should really know. Most jobs will tell you exactly when you'll get paid. You usually fill out the application, you do your interview, and then when they hire you, they'll let you know, they'll get your payment information, they'll let you know exactly what day and time to show up, and what day and time you'll be paid when you work a certain number of hours, or when you work your salaried tasks. So online business is definitely not like that. When you decide to start your online business, you're going to start out investing into the business, almost like a farmer putting seeds for growing plants. And then the online business can provide for you after that. With online business, you'll see things like success stories from people who did start to generate revenue, or people who did start to get profit. You'll see a variety of different things. I made $10,000 in 4 hours, or you'll see all kinds of things like that. But Business is based on market demand. So the person who was able to generate $10,000 in 4 hours, they did that because they were able to solve a problem for a group of people, and the people responded within a short period of time. This isn't always possible, and it's not always, it's not a norm. You have to test and see what the market is demanding and see where you can find a position in that. And that's how you'll be able to make good income like that. But it's not guaranteed. And just because you see success stories doesn't necessarily mean that that success story will translate to you. It does. It gives you a lot of hope, and it shows you the possibilities, and success stories are so exciting to read and to see and to learn from. But at the same time, they're not a template for you to follow. And so there's no 100% guarantee that because someone else made a certain amount in a short period of time that you will. Also, most jobs tell you exactly what to do to make the money. In fact, they'll even have on-the-job training where they're showing you exactly how to do this and how to do that and how to do this. And franchises are supposed to provide a similar sense of security, but online business is not exactly the same. Online business has educators, it has consultants, but you'll still have to experiment more to find the pain points for an audience that you would be building your business off of. Now, when you choose a niche, this is going to help you decide what audience you're targeting, but you'll also have to identify what products they might be looking for, what problems they might have, what the demand is to solve that problem. You'll have to do a lot more market research and testing before you really have narrowed down what can work for you. So businesses, you might have step-by-step directions for how to do search engine optimization, or step-by-step directions on how to load social media automation software. But for an entire business, you won't have step-by-step directions for that. You'll have to piece things together so that you can run a business, because it's going to be partly how you feel comfortable. Some other things that are different between getting a job and starting a business include that most jobs tell you the max that you can make over a set amount of time and the minimum. So they'll say, if you work this many hours, then this is how much we'll pay you. And so you'll know that you either have an hourly rate or you have a salary rate. And with business, you really have uncapped earning potential. You can create a product today or find an affiliate product that has a really high demand, and so you can have a really high earning potential with that, but you also can make nothing. And it's 100% based on your effort. So, and like again, you have to test and see what is the market demanding, how competitive is the supply for what you're considering, and how you can position yourself there. Another thing, jobs don't cost anything to start in most instances. You might have to pay for childcare or something like that, but typically you don't have to buy the tools and equipment to do the job because the job provides it. But when it comes to business, you have to buy the tools and equipment to start the business and to run the business. So this is another difference. Now, if you want to maintain the same standard of living, have less stress, and depend on the business when it's predictable, then you may want to either save 12 months or more of your living expenses, or start your business as a side hustle while you have a job. If you decide not to do that, then it can be a lot more roller coasters financially, and you may have differences in your standard of living because you're trying to adjust to the highs and the lows of the business income until it becomes predictable. But if you decide to save of 12 months of your expenses. I'm saying 12 months because usually it takes at least a year for a business to have some level of predictable income. At 1 year, you can look back and say, well, in January, sales were kind of slow, but that's because people are buying other things at New Year's time frame. So you'll have some level of predictability after you've been in business for a little while. It usually takes more than 12 months, but at 12 months, you should be able to assess, and you can grind and possibly make it work. But I wouldn't go lower than 12 months if you decide to live off of savings and make a business work from there, especially if you don't have an established social circle that's going to really help you get that business off the ground. As far as establishing a pattern of income and expenses specifically for you is also going to be a benefit of you either saving and living off of your savings, or starting a business as a side hustle, because you'll actually be able to see what your sales are, what your revenue is, what your expenses are on a regular basis, and make decisions based off of your patterns. And then by doing this, you'll have less stress while you transition. So these are all going to be benefits of starting it that way. And like I said, I say this from experience, because when I started my online business, I had growing expenses, and I had recently transitioned from the military into my husband and we started a startup construction company. So we had recently transitioned, and we were relying on the construction company for income. And then I started my business a few years after that. So looking back, it probably could have been done more smoothly, but like most people say, hindsight is 20/20. So I didn't know how much the business would bring in for at least the first year, and it was the same way with our construction company. You might have contracts and things that are lining up, so you know maybe the next month or the next week that some opportunities are coming in, but you don't really have that pattern, so you can't say how often those phone calls are going to come, or how often those people are going to check out on your website. You don't quite know until you've been doing it for a little while. And so it was really stressful for me not knowing. And bill collectors don't care if your business is growing. They don't care if you are putting in your best effort. They want to know the date that they're going to be paid. And you don't really have those dates until you have an established pattern of payment coming in and payment going out. And so having a stable income source sufficient to provide your needs while you're growing your business is going to be paramount. And I really share this to avoid some of the heartache that my family experienced in our transition. There were some areas that we could have done better. We could have planned better. We could have saved more. And all of these things would have made it easier for us to transition. But like I said, hindsight is 20/20. And so the best I can do at this point is to share with others so they don't have to experience those same things. But hardship in finances is the #1 cause of divorce. It causes foreclosure. It causes all kinds of bad things. And so if you want to stay as far away from those type of things as you can, then I would highly recommend you being sharp on your personal and business finances, and also saving as much as you can, so you can have a buffer, and also possibly having a stable income while you're growing your business. Now, some reasons that you may want to budget, because I recommend you budgeting for personal and business, is so that you can learn your spending habits. Sometimes there's money weaknesses that you have and you don't even know it. And this could be in your personal or in your business spending. You may be spending a lot on a product or a service and not even realize that there's an alternative. For example, maybe you might be spending a lot on diapers and not really ever consider that you could get a different brand and possibly save some money. So Grant Cardone says money runs from people who don't pay attention to it. And so by budgeting, you're keeping a closer eye, and you tend to be more aware of alternatives because you're looking at your numbers and you're saying, is there a way that this one can move around? Is there a way that this one can increase or this one can decrease? I also want to mention that Grant Cardone has what's called the 95-5 rule. He says you should spend 95% of your time on things that will generate income and 5% on expenses. So you don't want to overanalyze your expenses, even though you have more expenses than necessarily income streams. You don't want to overanalyze the expenses. You want to put a lot of emphasis on things that are going to develop that income. So whether that's educating yourself, developing skills, doing the work of like acquiring new customers, all of those tasks are what you want to spend the majority of your personal finance time on. But it's still important to do all these things. So also, another reason why you are going to want a budget is because you want to make sure that you're spending consistent with your goals. A lot of times there's so many distractions, things that just come up, like maybe you're riding down the street and you see the ice cream truck and the ice cream truck comes up, but that ice cream wasn't necessarily something that you had. It wasn't a goal. And maybe in your situation, spending all the money on the ice cream truck might take away from you having the money to invest in your new domain name or your new hosting or whatever the case is. So if you sit down and do a budget, you would know that. You would know that this ice cream right now needs to wait until next month because I want to be able to spend on this month. And you can just make sure that your spending is consistent with your goals. So you can say no to things that don't work. Now, ice cream is a little bit of a low expense, but I hope you get what I mean. It might be for you a pair of shoes that comes up on TV, or it could be a dress or something like that that just like impulsively attracts your attention, and then buying it throws your budget off and you're not able to invest in your business. All of these things are possibilities. And we all have these weaknesses from time to time. It's just that budgeting helps to notice them. Budgeting also helps to find opportunities to increase income and lower expenses because you're sitting down playing with your numbers on a regular basis. So because you're doing that, you tend to think more about how to solve problems if they're there. You think more about how can you, if you have if your income is where you're getting taxed and stuff, you might think of more ways that you can save on taxes and ways that you can plan for tax cuts. You might think about ways that you can plan to save on your grocery budget or things like that. Because you're budgeting, then you're thinking about how can you better make this income and these expenses more catered to your goals. And that's what it's all about. So sometimes you have to make sacrifices to get to the next step. So to get to the next step where you want to go, sometimes you have to cut back on things, or sometimes you may have to move things around. And it doesn't matter how successful or how much income you have, it happens to everybody. And you'll hear big businesses talking about budget cuts. Even the government talks about budget cuts. I was in the military when they did a major budget cut, and they cut the military size because it wasn't consistent with the goals that the government had for the country. So everybody has to do it at some point. Like Dave Ramsey says, you have to live like no one else so you can live like no one else. So maybe right now you might be cutting back so that in the future you can splurge. And that's how it goes. So some areas that most people tend to overspend on in personal finances, and overspending is in congruence with your income. So if you have a lot of income, then you might have a bigger food budget. But if you have a smaller income, you have to be able to live within your means. So these expenses can go up as income goes up, but these are some areas that tend to go up before income goes up. And a lot of people might end up making an impulsive decision or spend a high percent of their income on things like this. So food costs. Maybe you're going out to eat a little bit more than what you should, or maybe you're spending a little bit more on sweets or things like that than maybe you should. Or maybe you're just buying the most expensive brand name and there's a generic alternative. There's lots of ways that food costs can be cut. Maybe cutting back on ready-made meals and cooking more from scratch. All of those things are ways that you can cut back on food costs. Then there's recreation. And of course, who doesn't like to go and have fun? Who doesn't like to go places that are fun? But there's ways that you can go more to a free park versus going to a paid one all the time. There's options for still having fun at a lower cost, and it may be necessary if your goals are saying that you want to invest in a business. There's subscriptions. A lot of us have Netflix and cable and internet and everything else, but there's subscriptions that you can cut back on just so that you'll be able to invest in a business. If it's really that important, this may be a sacrifice you might want to do. And then disposable items. You have paper towels and napkins and paper, all kinds of things that can be thrown away, and then it's like it can be money thrown in the trash. It can be really helpful, like if you buy paper plates, paper cups, all that stuff. I do, but they can be really helpful if you don't have the time to wash dishes and all that stuff. But at the same time, they can inflate your costs if you don't have the room for that in your budget. Then you have transportation. Maybe you're traveling more than you can afford. I know I've seen some people who decide to get on the bus because they know that it's cheaper than gas. They might take a train. They might alternate how they get from point A to point B so that they can save money. I've seen people who decide to get a moped or get a bike or something like that to save in transportation costs. And then finally, you have lifestyle and luxury items. There's name brands out the wazoo. There's so many things you can buy in a name brand, and some of them, most of them aren't necessary, but it might make you feel better. It might be trending. It might be attractive, all those things. But some of those psychological things that have to do with ego might need to be put to the side while you're building your business. Instead of buying name brand, maybe you can buy off brand for now and be a trailblazer. Make your own trend, but do it so that you can make room for what's important to you right now. Now, these are some good apps that you can use to track your spending. EveryDollar was the one that I started out with, and it's really the favorite one that I recommend for those who are starting out because it's so easy. The interface is very easy to use, And when you sign up for the premium version, it's inexpensive. It's something like $10 a month. And you can drag and drop your expenses into your budget category as they're coming through. So you can not just track your income or your projected income, but you're also paying attention to your actuals. EveryDollar also will send you a notification on your phone if you decide to download the app on your phone, and it'll let you know that it's time to track expenses. Basically, you had more expenses that synced into EveryDollar, and it's time for you to track them. So it's really helpful with making sure you're staying on budget. If you do the traditional paper budget, then a lot of times you might write down what you think your expenses are going to be, but you may not go back and put in what you actually spent so that you can see what that pattern is like in reality. And then you have YNAB, or You Need a Budget. They have great budgeting courses in addition to having a great budgeting tool. And the same for EveryDollar. EveryDollar has Financial Peace University. A lot of they have a lot of live local meetups. In my area, there's several places where you can meet up and do the Financial Peace University. They also have an online program. When you sign up for the EveryDollar annual version, then it's something like $80 for the year, somewhere around there. And when you sign up for that, it also comes with EveryDollar Financial Peace University. And with the Financial Peace University, you get a complete education on how to get rid of your debt, how to be more business savvy, and how to build wealth. And You Need a Budget has a similar program, but they have a different sway on things, and you might like either one. It's up to you to try them out and to see which you like best, but both of them are really good tools. I personally use EveryDollar for my personal budget and You Need a Budget for business. And the reason why I do that is basically because you can export You Need a Budget and you can send it to your accountant. She can put it in QuickBooks or whatever the case is, and it's easier to migrate for like that. It's also easier for tax time and stuff like that. So I prefer You Need a Budget for business. But then there's also QuickBooks and there's also FreshBooks. So yeah, all of these are possibilities. Now, these are some normal expenses that you would have an online business. And these are some things that that I've talked about previously. I talked about what normal online business expenses are like on a previous YouTube video. And so education, website hosting, accounting software, legal consulting, legal software, all of these things are normal expenses, and these can range in cost. Like, for example, if you have a software as a service business, you might be paying developers and different people to help you with creating that software. And that could cost more. You could also be paying for your own product to be developed, and maybe you're paying manufacturers to get it developed. You might be paying for 3D models of your product so that you can. There's so many ways that these can be higher or lower. Another with product development, maybe you're doing online courses and it takes you a decent amount of time to develop the material. That is labor costs, because at the end of the day, you're not free. You have to pay your bills, so it costs something. So you have product development, service design. Maybe you're delivering a service online. It takes time to get everything that's required to deliver that service. So all of these are normal expenses for online business. And again, it's important to be disciplined about personal and business spending. So many people, and I've personally seen this, like since I've been offering coaching for online business owners, I've gotten to see many people who start out in a financial hardship, and unfortunately they try to make the business work for 1 to 3 months. They're paying for their business expenses, but then after 3 months they can't hold on anymore. So then they stop working on their business and they get discouraged and they feel like, well, why wasn't I able to make the business work? And it's just that they weren't able to stick it out long enough. But the finances is a big reason, and they also may not have had realistic expectations when it comes to what it takes to generate revenue for a business, whether online or offline. Another thing is personal finances are typically what fuels the business until it generates the revenue. So with online business, in contrast to offline business, with online business, you're usually starting out, and if you start out on a low budget, you might be using a strategy to attract your customers, like organic social media marketing or organic search engine optimization. And if you don't start out with a large social media following, or if you don't start out with a website that's already established and mature and has a lot of authority, then it may take you some time to get rankings and to get traffic. And so with offline business, you might be able to start generating revenue faster, especially if you're starting out selling a service. But the con is that it doesn't, like with online business, you can build the website, build the traffic, and then it becomes where it has some level of passive components because you've built an asset that is leveraged. With offline business, you don't necessarily have that. So if you're not working, then you won't have that passive income component. That's one of the benefits of online business. But either way, you have to have the personal finances to be able to start it, or you have to have a means. Like we talked about before, where do you get your startup money from? You have to have a way that you do that. Now, how long does it take businesses to generate revenue? Regardless of whether you listen to entrepreneurs who put in $100,000 to start their business or those who start with $100 or less, you have to have realistic expectations. Some entrepreneurs are putting in money so they can start their McDonald's franchise, or so they can start their software as a service business. I've personally worked with startup companies who put a massive startup investment in, and maybe they have $20,000 a month to spend on ads, and they start like rigorously like that. But then you have they still have to wait to be able to say that they balance that out. Companies like Google can, even when they started out, it was difficult for them to monetize sufficiently where they were generating a profit or able to pay themselves. So more startup capital doesn't necessarily mean quicker return 100% of the time. So whether you start as a bootstrap business with $1,000 or whether you start out with the equity funding of $1 million, like, it doesn't necessarily mean you'll get to profit any quicker. But with that said, when you read business books and you look at statistics, most businesses don't see profit for at least 3 years. And this is, profit is income minus your expenses, and the expenses includes paying yourself. So for me personally, I didn't start paying myself until I have been running How to Entrepreneur for 17 months. And when I did the service-based business model, then I was able to start paying myself earlier, but it was, again, harder to leverage while raising young kids. So I started projecting profit at 22 months, and part of that is to do with this book here. Profit First. So if you're at the point where you are generating revenue and you're looking for how to like budget in a way that you can take the profit and really grow the business, I would say take a look at this book, Profit First, because it's really good to help you get that profit squared away and scale. Now, affiliate marketing businesses are seeing steady revenue somewhere around the 2-year mark. And this is what I've noticed from reading different income reports and from talking to entrepreneurs and networking with different online entrepreneurs. The hard workers and the ones who have the time to really devote to their businesses, they are seeing results, and they're seeing similar growth curves that I've seen in my own business. So some businesses take longer and some shorter. It depends on how much time they put, what type of education they get, what type of tools they're using, and so many other factors. Now, these are how can you increase that profit in your business. There's 3 main levers that you control, and those are decreasing the expenses, increasing the sales, and raising the prices. If you're in affiliate marketing and you are referring customers to a merchant, then most often you don't control the prices. So you have only 2 levers that you would be managing, and that is decreasing your expenses and increasing your sales. So some common areas to overspend in online business. Now, again, just like personal finance, overspending is incongruent with your budget. So if you have $100 to spend per month on the business, you have to be very careful or the business won't grow. And so here's some common places that people overspend on. They overspend on education. There's so many high-ticket courses out there, and they'll be spending on these high-ticket courses, but they only have $100 a month to invest in the business, and they buy this course, and the course doesn't actually attract customers for them. It just teaches them a few things, and then they won't have the money to attract customers or to actually create a product or create a service or find an affiliate partner. They won't have the full picture. So you have to keep your education costs as a percentage of your overall budget and not the 100%, because education is only a part of what you need to grow a business. They also may overspend on software and tools. Maybe there's a lot of great software out there, and you've seen reviews that I've done on various different software. So maybe they decide on something like ClickFunnels, and it's a funnel software, and it's a good software for some people. But if they only have $200 a month to spend on their business and they're spending more than half of that on funnel software, then how are they actually going to attract the customer? How are they actually going to deliver either a product, service, or recommendation with the remainder of that budget? It can be really tough. So you don't want to overspend on software. Maybe find a cheaper alternative for now and scale up. Also, payroll. Sometimes people might get $500 from the business, and the whole $500 they take, put it in their personal finances and spend it instead of reinvesting it into advertising or improving the quality of the service they're delivering or anything else. They'll spend all the money on paying themselves. And this can happen regardless of if they have a $500 income or a $10,000 income. If you take too much percentage of it and use it as payroll, then you won't grow the business. And inventory. Maybe a lot of startups don't have an audience yet. So if they spend majority of their money on inventory, then they won't have the customers to deliver the inventory to. They might spend too much on inventory but not enough on education, so they don't know what to do with the inventory. They might spend a lot on inventory but not enough on market research, so they didn't research the product to make sure there was a high demand and low supply. All of these are issues. The same thing with product and service development. You could spend a lot of time on creating an e-course and then nobody actually buy it because you spent too much time and money on it, and not enough on getting customers or making the course nice. So there's so many ways to overspend, and these are just a few examples. Now, sometimes, like I just gave examples of, sometimes the overspending is on good things. So the software is good, the strategy is good, but it's not the strategy for you. So you can buy good things at the wrong time. You can buy advertising for a business that doesn't quite have a proven product yet. You can buy good things at the wrong time, but you really have to be careful of that. So like I just explained, for example, you can spend 100% of the startup budget on inventory, but then you won't get the people to know about it. So all of these are issues, and this rings true of startup entrepreneurs who are spending on high-ticket courses, and it rings true for larger businesses who spend hundreds of thousands on product development and not enough on advertising. It can happen to big and small businesses. So it's something as an entrepreneur you really have to be watchful of and understand better how to proportion your income and how to prioritize your business budget. So some expenses should wait. Now let's take a look at the numbers. So this is a personal budget. So you can have your personal budget, and I don't want to go too much into this one because you know what the normal expenses are, but like we said, maybe you might have too much in the grocery category, or maybe you might have too much, even maybe you're living in a condo and maybe you could scale back there. There's so many ways that you can work out these expenses, and I would say stop by and try a software like YNAB or try a software like EveryDollar so you can experiment with your personal expenses and see how you can modify them. Like I said, YNAB has a lot of great courses to help with that. So I want to talk specifically about online business. Now, in this case, we have $1,000 budget to start out with, and there's all of these possibilities, great expenses we could be spending on. We could be, we could be buying a course for $1,000, and that will be our whole startup budget. And the course could be great, but it won't get us where we need to go. We might not. It might not be the best decision right now. We could spend more. We could spend half or more on the hosting. We could spend more on market research tools. There's great tools out there like SEMrush and Ahrefs and tools that are $100 a month. Over 12 months, we've spent our whole startup budget. So if you only have $100 a month to spend on the business, is it really a wise idea to look at the tools and to spend it all on those tools? There's, again, sales conversion software. There's so many things we could be spending that money on. We could buy a really nice WordPress theme and spend the money. So let's go ahead and put in this money. Okay, so we're starting with all of these different line items, and I've added in income line items because in the beginning it might be the owner's investment, but over time you might have income from different affiliates. Maybe you have 3 primary affiliates. Maybe you've created a product at some point. Maybe you have a service that you've created and that you get paid from at some point. So This is kind of like a normal breakdown, and maybe even you have, let's say you have ads running on your site or on your videos or whatever the case is. So then this would be another income line item. And so let's go ahead and add the owner's account, because for now this is going to be where the money comes from. So the owner's account is going to be unlinked, and this is going to be owner's account. And the balance, we're starting out with $1,000 to invest in the business. So with that $1,000, okay, so let's just start from here. So let's say we have $1,000 to be budgeted, right? And we know we need to get hosting. This is going to be how we store our content online. There's really no way around that. So what if you can find a hosting platform that is almost comparable price with other hosting options, but maybe it might also have other components to it, like education or networking components, or it can have other components to it. And that's why I like to recommend Wealthy Affiliate to people, because it has the web hosting combination with networking, live Q&As, and also I can provide coaching through that platform, so they get more oversight. So $359 is how much I typically tell people to pay, because that's how much it costs for annual membership at Wealthy Affiliate. So then this enables me to be able to work with them for the whole year and to help them get their business off the ground. Now, if they also decided to spend money on like something like Elementor or a page builder like the Divi Builder, then this could be another area that they spend money on, is this sales conversion software or web design software. Because Elementor for the pro version is $50 a year, but you don't necessarily have to have the pro version. You can start out with this being a zero. You don't have to buy a premium theme in the first year. You don't have to buy a page builder. You don't have to buy funnel software. This is more of a luxury item. But if you can afford the luxury, then you can do that. Market research, it's a luxury item for some of the market research tools. You might not need the level of scale that some of the tools have when you're starting out, but if you have more of a budget, then it doesn't hurt. But if you don't have that, then you might want to start with the tool that's included with the Wealthy Affiliate hosting. They include what's called Jaxi Lite. It helps you to see the supply and demand for content online. You can do lots of market research with that, and then when you want to, you can decide to scale up. You'll have other things like maybe printers and cartridges. Maybe you decide to buy a printer so that you can do your incorporation and fax other paperwork and things that you need to. That can be a cost. You might have office supplies like pens, paper, notebooks, and things like that that you have to get. There's ergonomic equipment, chairs. Maybe you feel uncomfortable in the chair that you normally sit in, and since you're in an online business, then it becomes more important because you're spending a lot of time, sitting down and doing your work. Maybe you decide to do video marketing, so you need cameras and various things. So all of these can be moved around based on the priorities you have in your business. You may need a consultation with an accountant to make sure you understand how to do your bookkeeping, and that could cost you. You might want to sign up for QuickBooks or sign up for YNAB or sign up for different software that helps you to categorize your expenses better, and that can cost you. Then you have legal. Maybe you need help with incorporation, or maybe you decide to incorporate yourself. There's still a state fee that you pay, or depending on what country you're in, you may have fees associated there. So all of these are ways that you could spend that money. But if I were to start out, the most important things starting an online business will be your web hosting, your domain name. You'll really need possibly some office supplies. You'll need to be sharp with your accounting and bookkeeping so that you know how much you're spending, and you also can make sure you're spending and it's going consistent towards your goals. At some point, once you're getting revenue, then there will be more liability to protect, and it'll be important to incorporate. So this may be a legitimate cost that you want to take into consideration, which is right here, $550 for consulting, $400 for tools, and then you have your office supplies. So these are some real startup expenses. If you have more to work with, then maybe you can invest more in maybe you can buy a bookkeeping course, and maybe $20 course, and spend more money there. Or so let's say the owner can put in more. So you have $1,000 budget, right? And let's use it to cover some things. So let's just go with it. So let's say you have $1,000 to budget, right? And then you have, maybe you have a course. It might be an accounting course. It might be a course on how to do your privacy policy or something like that. So this is a real expense. You may have your web hosting expense. You have your market research. You might feel like you're not being productive or whatever. So maybe you decide to get time tracking software or something like that. There's all kinds of ways you can spend the money, but if you have $1,000 or less, I would say that you would want to spend it like in a way like this, like what I have here. And as you get more to spend, then you can add in more education, because it's likely you might need more education. So maybe you get $500 as your first affiliate income. Once you get that income, then you can take that and you can take that income and you can budget for that. If you'd like to see more videos like this, not necessarily where I use whiteout, it takes a learning curve, but it is a good software to use. And if you're looking for ways to play around with the numbers and to see what your income and expenses are, or what your income and expenses could be, because you'll need something like this for your business plan so that you can make a solid assessment on what you should and should not be spending on. There's something like ads. Maybe you decide, let's spend this whole thing on ads. It's possible. And that's what I really wanted you to see, is to have more confidence and clarity about the possibilities. So if you enjoyed this, please either leave a thumbs up or like and follow below. Leave your comments. Let me know what you liked about this. Let me know what you do for business budgeting. Let me know if you've ever made mistakes with business budgeting, or if you've forgotten to budget or just decided not to, and how that's impacted your business growth. Let me know all of those type of stories below, and I'd love to network with you more. If you haven't yet, stop by howtoentrepreneur.org. I'd love to get to know you and to help you start your online business if that's what you want to do. So you can definitely stop by howtoentrepreneur.org and get more information on how to work with me to start your online business. So that's all I have for this video, and have a great day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.